Hi everyone, so I'm back yet again with my channel Psychology Pulse, and today the topic is a little interesting for you to hear about. So it's all about consent. So what is consent? Are you aware? You must be thinking it is like giving permission, right? But do you think there's a thin line between permission and consent? Because giving permission could not be willfully but out of majburi, right? But if we talk about consent, it is a little bit different. And today we are going to discuss the types of consent and what exactly it means. It might help you in your daily life and in your professional life as well. So stay tuned because it's gonna be very informative, like my last video. So first we understand the literal meaning of consent, what exactly the consent is and how many types of consent are there, and are we okay to remove consent. Consent means in Hindi is called रजामंदी. किसी चीज़ की रजामंदी देने को हम consent का नाम देते हैं. So अगर मैं बात करूँ consent की, so consent is a voluntarily informed a mutual agreement between participants and to engage in a specific activity. It's a fundamental concept in various contexts including personal relationship, sexual encounters and interactions, and involving personal boundaries. So there are some key aspects of consent that we are going to discuss about, but before that, I hope that you understand what is consent. Let's take an example. We have two people. So two people, right? I took an example of two people. Two people are meeting each other and they have decided that we will go for some voluntarily act. There might be a college fest, there might be some function, and they voluntarily participate in this. And this kind of consent where two parties meet and agree to a point wherein they will voluntarily participate and give consent, or you can slightly call it as permission to participate in a cause, is called a voluntary consent. So this is one of the key aspects wherein we say voluntary consent is very freely, okay? So without any coercion, any sort of manipulation, it should come from a genuine desire to participate. So basically, when the two parties are not involved in any kind of pressure, any kind of manipulation where someone is manipulating your mind. Manipulation could be like putting you into certain situations to which somewhere your moral doesn't agree to it, but they are manipulating your mind to do that act, right? So there your heart is saying, no, I don't have to participate in this, but somehow that manipulation force comes from the external party which makes you join that act. So this voluntarily consent is all about not getting into those kind of acts wherein a manipulation is involved, or any kind of pressure is involved or coercion is involved, be it any party, be it your parents, be it your friends, but any sort of pressure. So any kind of manipulation and any kind of pressure, it should be free, okay? So that is what is the word says, voluntarily consent. Moving on to the next key aspect of the consent, that would be informed. What is informed consent? Like we talk about, informed is like informing someone, right? So all parties who are involved in a particular act, be it any act, right, must have clear understanding of what they are consenting to. And this includes knowing the nature of the activity and the potential risk involved. So basically, be it taking a voluntary action, or getting into a sexual intercourse, or whatever the activity you are participating in, you must be aware of the understanding of what you are getting into. So when you are aware about what you are getting into is only when you will be able to give a free will consent to the next party. It's as simple as, if you would like to join a business, if you would like to start a business, then, or if you have your own business, right? If you would like someone to join you, then they would definitely would like to know what kind of work you're doing, and is it legal or is it illegal, right? It's exactly the same. So any professional activity, any personal activity in which you would have to agree on a point and where you give consent or agreement to, you must know what exactly you are getting into and what it is all about, to be able to give that agreement without any pressure and without coercion. Now, next one is, what is mutual consent? Mutual, what does the mutual word defines? Mutual itself says that it is an agreement and a decision between two parties, right? So one of the key aspect of consent is mutual, right? So both the parties should agree to whatever the activity they are getting involved in, and with the awareness of what they are going into, and give consent to, okay, I am getting into this and I give my permission that we will do this, or I give my consent that we will do this. So it's essential that everyone has an equal say in the decision. That's what mutual consent is all about. So it's not a one thing, right? It's not one party will say other has to listen. No, consent is mutual. So whatever you decide has to be respected between both the parties. That is mutual consent. Now another thing which I am also going to cover is all about ongoing consent. So what is ongoing consent? So whenever you have given a consent, it's not one time activity, it's an ongoing activity. You might need, whenever you involve in any activity, you might need permission or consent regarding whether we can do this or not. So consent is something that it can be revoked at any point of time. If you feel uncomfortable, if you do not feel safe, it can be revoked anytime by respecting the other party's decision, right? Consent has to be, okay, you are aware that what you are getting into, what activities are involved. However, if they find any discrepancy in that activity, if they find it's not right, there is something that needs to be stopped about, there's something you are not liking it, okay, be it any activity, then you have a right to say a no. Yes, it's very important. Then consent is not something that it cannot be revoked. It can definitely be revoked, and it will not be considered breaking promises. No, that's where the difference comes. Whenever we give any promises, whenever we give any consent, right? Let's not take the word promises. I think whenever we give any consent to the person, then we blindly trust that person, right? With the activity. However, I personally feel consent should be free will. However, you should also have a decision to revoke your consent if you feel that there is something involved in the activity is not right to your morals, right? It's not aligning with your ethics. Then the consent must be revoked at any point of time. Also feel that there must be an ongoing consent. So in any activity that you get involved, there must be a effective communication between both the parties to make them understand what you're going to do, and are you comfortable with that. And that consent must come from the other party, that yes, I am comfortable with that. So are you comfortable? Are you okay? Do you feel safe? That's the question that must come when we talk about consent. And these kind of boundaries must be involved in such kind of activities, where a regular piece of consent is asked throughout the journey of any activity that you involve, be it professional, be it personal. That's what the ongoing consent is all about. Now the next thing that I'm going to talk about would be, now we are going to talk about the age and the capacity. So any person who is giving the consent or who is asking for consent must be in an age and capacity to take such decisions of giving consent, and that person must be in an age to understand in which activity he is going to get involved, and should have that brain capacity to give that consent. For example, let's take a very example would be a person who is giving consent when the person is drugged, right? When the person is into drugs, the person is taking alcohol, then that consent must not be considered apt for the situation. And so under the influence of drugs and alcohol may not be able to give a valid consent. So this is very important, which we actually don't which we don't discuss, but are quite essential in order to make the right decision and to give the right consent. So these two people, we must avoid it, right? So now next part we are going to discuss, that is all about respecting boundaries. So consent involves respecting boundaries, right? So whenever you involve in any activity, the boundaries are something that you need to respect about, right? You must have heard about good touch, bad touch, or agreements, right? So respecting boundaries is one thing, that if you are speaking to your partner, right, speaking to your partner in a relationship, for example, then the one, if you ask for something, that person, if she tells you that I do not like this, then you must take a no as a no. So now it's very important, right? When a person is saying in front of you that I do not like this activity, I am not comfortable with this, I do not like you speaking to me like this, then you must agree to this point, that she is telling you that I am not liking this and I do not give you consent of speaking to me like this or touching to me like this, right? So consent. So when you meet your friends, you do not simply hug them. Please take a consent before touching any person, because that next person or your friend might not like your touch. Maybe she might have gone through some trauma. She might not agree like the kind of touch which you are giving to the person. So parents, I would suggest that if you could explain them the concept of consent, that will, and it's not even about she, I would also talk about he. Any girl, if she's going and hugging the partner, hugging not the partner, I would say any random stranger or friend, I would say please tell them that do not get into any sort of touch without consent. Please ask for permission, please ask before touching anyone. That's extremely important, moral wise as well, and it's a way of living you should dwell into, right? You should teach that particular thing, that taking consent is a necessity. Even when you say a no, that person will respect your thoughts if you respect yourself, right? So consent is extremely important. If you say a no, then the person sitting next to you will only understand this thing when he knows the importance of consent, right? Be it a girl, be it a boy, okay? And also, if someone expresses discomfort, right, or declines to participate in any activity, their decision must be honored, right, without making them feel guilty, okay? So if they are not agreeing to any point and they are saying, okay, this might sounds right to you, but it doesn't sound right to me. For me, it's an ethical problem. For me, I'm not comfortable. I'm not feeling comfortable with this. When you see that sign, right? When you see a no sign, then respect their thoughts, respect their opinions, respect to what they're saying. It must be honored, right? And without any pressure or any sort of guilt. That's very, very important. Sometimes you force a person to get into an activity where they are not comfortable. Why to go and dwell down to that situation where your partner is uncomfortable getting into that activity? So with that, that's the session all about. So what we have learned so far, key takeaways: respecting boundaries, consent must be ongoing, it must have a right age and capacity to take decision, it must be voluntarily, right? It must be with the will and not with the guilt or any sort of pressure. And moral of the story is understanding and respecting consent is crucial for a healthy relationship, be it in professional world and be it in relationships, right? So now next time when you meet a lady, or next time when a lady meets a guy, do take permission and take consent whether we can touch each other or not. It's crucial to take consent. And I take a bye for today. We'll see you in the next video. If you have any concerns, right, you can always drop an email to me to motivationaltalkwithswati@gmail.com. There are many ladies and women who reach out to me for their issues related to relationship, issues related to depression or anxiety. So I would be your mental health coach. You can contact me and drop me an email. I'll register your case and help you out as much as possible. So till then, we'll meet you in the next video.